Did you think that you were done collecting expansions and content for Dune Imperium or Dune Imperium Uprising even? You weren't, because Bloodlines is just coming out and it adds even more to the game. And one of the things I think this one does for the first time is for Uprising specifically.
Yeah.
This one is designed with Uprising in mind, although a lot of this will work with all of the Dune Imperiums that you might have. But I think a lot of people saw that the old expansions with Uprising might have been a little much.
Yeah, we've kind of gotten into this weird situation now where everything that came out with Dune Imperium, base Dune Imperium, all the expansions, Rise of Ix, Immortality, it was all usable with Uprising. But yeah, you're right. A lot of people didn't, myself included. I didn't like to mix the expansions with Uprising only because what Uprising introduced to the game, things like spies.
Yeah.
If you're using the other expansions, they don't talk about spies. You're diluting the card pool with all these cards that don't even use that mechanic. So I'm a purist. I like playing Dune Uprising by itself. And I know all the guys I play with online, just pure Dune Uprising. So this expansion, though, it does feel like it was designed with Dune Uprising first because it adds a lot of things like what you'd expect in a game, a lot of new components for all the different aspects. But what it does add is a ton of Dominion cards, which are cards that are added to the deck and, will be drawn. Though, however, the spy cards, you won't be able to use those with base Dune because there are no spies. So, that is an interesting thing. Some of these new rival cards as well also interact with spies by having spies do different things. So those are only compatible with Uprising. In fact, there are a few things here that are only compatible specifically with Uprising.
Yeah, you will have to mix and match depending on what flavor of Dune Imperium you have. So, but probably less so with Uprising than you would for Dune Imperium with this.
Well, yeah, with Uprising, you're just using it. You can use everything. You can use all of this with Uprising right out of the box. The rulebook is very good about saying, hey, if you have just, Dune Imperium, here's what you use. If you have Rise of Ix, here's what you use. And it kind of talks you through how to mix and match these things for your current game. It might even tell you to take some cards out of this deck if you're using base Dune Imperium and not using Uprising. But I plan on just shuffling these right into my Uprising deck. So all that's new. New cards, new rivals, new intrigue cards.
That's a lot.
A ton of new intrigue cards. A ton of new contracts for the Cho module.
Which was, I want to pause on that one because the contracts were one of my favorite things.
Sure.
Maybe for me, even more than the spies. And it might have been based on the first game of Dune Uprising.
Oh, the contracts are fun.
But the contracts are the kind of thing that I look for in a game. And the addition of those in Uprising and the fact that there are more of them here is exciting.
Yeah, and new solo cards, new conflict cards, which add some new conflict rewards, and some new wild icons, which makes it a little easier to score your sets. The fact that we've got all this new stuff, just look how many new intrigue cards there are. This is insane.
It's a lot of intrigue cards. I mean, I think a lot of people, especially the players that Ryan was talking about, the guys he plays with online, those intrigue cards.
They know every intrigue card.
Everyone knows every intrigue card.
They even know what percentage they have of getting a particular intrigue card.
Right.
This is definitely going to put a wrench in those plans.
Yeah, they're the kind of guys who play, and when someone draws an intrigue card, they're worried about, is that this one?
Right,
or
they'll
this
know
one?
exactly.
They know these
The only way to
things.
win is if they could beat me if they have one of these two intrigue cards in their hand. And yeah, I'm not that good, but it is fun to watch people that are at that level. So all that stuff is added into the base games, and then 9 new house leaders.
Yeah, the new house leaders is kind of crazy because it brings the total amount of house leaders. And if you have Imperium and Imperium Uprising, which, let's be honest, a lot of you do.
I do.
A lot of you do. You're going to now have around 30 different houses.
If you have everything, if you have all the expansions,
if you have everything, which is honestly, just in the world of board games, is a little mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Now, some of them are wildly unique.
Well, and they've always been, yeah.
They've always, but what I'm getting at is some of them have some complicated stuff. Some of them are fairly straightforward. They're all quite different and play out quite differently from one another.
And I like that they're all mix and matchable. So you can still use these with their components in the other games. And I wanted to talk about, there's a bunch cool powers here, and I'll show some pictures, but I want to talk about 2 in particular because they add some new actual physical components. And one is the steersman, who has all these navigation cards to choose from. And at the beginning of the game, You're choosing 4 of these, playing them face down in order, and every time you move up those influence tracks, every time you get the point from influence, you also get to reveal the leftmost. So you're kind of timing when these cards are going to reveal, and that adds, I mean, that's a cool new little twist.
Yeah, and Esmar Tuic is really interesting, kind of built around spice, but the big thing here is, and this is going to be one of those things that people like go, oh, what?
Yeah.
A location that goes out on the board. Everyone can go to this location. In fact, when other people do go to this location, he's going to get an intrigue card. He's going to get some bonuses. But when he uses his signet ring too, he's going to sort of juice this up with more spice. That's just really interesting to me. The fact that you can introduce something now in what? This is the 4th product released for Dune Imperium.
5th? Yeah.
Including, fifth. The 5th product. And just now they have a house that has a whole new location that just goes. This doesn't cover a location, right? This goes out on the board.
No, I have to check. We just got this in. I haven't played it yet. I haven't used him. So that's kind of all the stuff that you've seen before. But the game also introduces 2 new modules that you can mix and match with the game as well. You can use both of them at the same time. The first one, and probably biggest one that's going to change up the game, is the Sardaukar Commanders. These are figures that you can buy as you go to different locations. At the start of the game, they're placed out on different locations. If you visit them, you can pay them to join your army. At that point, they kind of just become one of your troops, and they're used just like a troop. But each commander gives you access to one of these commander ability tiles. And these are kind of put out at the start of the game. And when you take one, you get to choose one of these ability tiles, and these become an ongoing ability for you. They give you special things that happen when you reveal. They give you some daggers for combat. They give you some special abilities that might trigger. So they can give you some huge bonuses. And this is very much a first come, first serve kind of benefit. So the game wants you to maybe try to get those Sardaukar early. If you really see one out there that, that tile is going to just win me the game, but somebody else might beat you to it. So that can be added in with any of the game modes, because really these command tiles are just kind of bonuses that are going to help you be better at the game.
Yeah, I think they've done a good job over everything that they've introduced to continue to make the conflict part of the game just more and more interesting.
Yeah, sure.
Like with Uprising is the one that brought in the worms, right?
Yeah.
That alone was like, I'm not even a big conflict-oriented player, but Uprising, that's one of the things about Uprising that I think made it more interesting. As it was explained to me when I first played, I was like, okay, well, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, you have the worms. If you add Ix, you get the Dreadnoughts. Now you get the Sardaukar. So there's a lot of different types of units that you might see in combat.
Yeah, the other thing they have here is the Ixian Embassy. This brings in kind of the flavor of the Ix expansion and some of the mechanics to Uprising or Imperium. If you don't have the Ix expansion, you can still use this and get some of the same sorts of things with the contracts.
Yeah, it's a very, I would say, streamlined version of it. They have some specific contracts here that are usable in Uprising or in base Dune. And again, there's rules that say maybe you don't use this one or that one based on your setup. But these will let you get that tech flavor with a much easier process. Whenever you visit a green location, you can just pay and buy one. Like there's no multi-step process of like getting these techs anymore. However, if you do have Rise of Ix, there are rules. You can just mix these in and have more contracts to choose from. Whether you're using Rise of Ix with the base game or with the Uprising, you can use these new sets of tech tiles. But if you're just playing Uprising, you'll use just this set. The board kind of sits off to the side. It just becomes, like you said, a little flavor of Ix.
Yeah, and we have just said, both of us, contracts and tech tiles. They are tech tiles.
Did I say contracts?
We both said contracts.
There are contracts.
We also both said tech tiles. These are the tech tiles. Those are the contracts. But yeah, that's everything, right?
That is everything. It's a lot more than it looks on the table. I'm especially excited about the Sardaukar abilities. The fact that you've got this giant stack of commander tokens and you're only putting out a certain number every game means that you're going to be having access to some powers sometimes that you won't even see again.
Yeah, and I think this in general is just going to be an expansion that all the people out there who may have come late to the Dune Imperium party and only have Uprising, I don't know how many people that is.
It's probably a significant
It's probably
number,
a fair amount, because Uprising came out at a time where the movie sequel was building. They were building up to the movie sequel. It was supposed to come out at the same time.
Sure, that didn't.
But then they bumped the sequel a little bit.
Yeah.
But people had seen the original movie. A little bit more people are into it. So the people who have Uprising, this is probably, in my opinion, the first opportunity they have to go, add to that
Sure,
game
yeah.
in a significant way. You could always add the other ones, but like we said, a lot of people were kind of like, that's a bit
No,
much.
I won't. I will play Uprising with, and in fact, I'm excited to play Uprising with all of this stuff. I just won't mix it with the base game. That's
Yeah,
all.
this one adds the right level of stuff because, like we said,
think so.
Uprising in and of itself, it almost feels like it has a couple of little
And already,
expansions built
Uprising
into it.
as a self-contained game is almost like a perfect game.
Yeah.
So I'm excited.
If you have any questions at all about this, please make them in the comments below. If we screwed up anything and you know more than we do, maybe don't make those in the comments below. No, I'm kidding. Make those in the comments below. We'll get down there and talk about the game with you till
I'll talk about it forever.
Brian will talk about it forever. So don't keep him too busy. Until next time, though, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.